Here at Kolbe Striping, the majority of the pavement markings that we put down on the road require retroreflectivity. Through a paint truck or epoxy truck, this is achieved by the bead dispenser. If you have a bead dispenser such as this that is not working properly and you have gone through all the troubleshooting methods, please continue on with the rebuild. Here's some of the tools you're going to need. 7/16 wrench, a 1/2 inch wrench, 9/16 wrench, a pair of channel locks, a small adjustable wrench, a pick set, air tool oil, ATF, or motor oil. Here's some of the parts you're going to be working with. An air fitting, the cap, thumb screw lock nut, a piston spring, piston rod spring, the upper body, the piston rod and 2 O-rings, the piston, U-cup or diaphragm, needle lock nut, packing nut, the packing O-ring, the packing wiper ring, packing retaining ring, lower body, the needle seat or orifice, bead deflector, the retaining nut O-ring, and the retaining nut. Alright everybody, welcome to the Binks Model 30 bead gun rebuild. First thing we're going to do in this rebuild is we're going to remove our air line off of our air fitting. To do this, we push in on the air line, push in on the air fitting lock, and pull out on the air line. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove our air fitting using a 9/16 wrench. And then we're going to remove the cap to our bead gun using our channel locks. Now by removing this cap, we're exposing 2 separate springs. The big spring is known as your piston spring. The small spring is your piston rod spring. If you take a close look at the cap to your beater, you have what's called a thumb screw. This is to only be tightened with your hands, never by any wrench or pliers. Just underneath that you have a lock nut. That locks the thumb screw into place so it doesn't come out of adjustment driving down the road or in use while striping. The next thing we're going to do, we're going to remove our bead deflector using our channel locks again. Now, as I take this apart, we have our retaining nut, our bead deflector, and then our needle seat, which is also known as an orifice. If you look closely, you can see the bevel where the needle sits down and makes a seal. And if you look inside, you can see the hole, which is called the orifice. There's 4 different sizes of these for this gun. And then we have our retaining nut O-ring. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to separate our needle from our piston rod using a small crescent wrench and a 7/16 wrench. You want to grab the piston rod and turn the needle set nut off with the 7/16 wrench. Now to remove the needle from the piston rod, there's two different ways to do this. You could use your channel locks to grab the needle and turn the piston rod with your 7/16 wrench. Or you can simply push your needle to the top dead center, grab onto the needle, and just turn your piston rod out. Now on your piston assembly, it's comprised of two different parts. To separate these, simply push the piston rod through the piston. You want to check your piston on the U-cup. Look for any abrasions or any weathering. If there is, go ahead and replace that. Just use your pick and dig on the back side and simply pry it off. On your piston rod, there's two O-rings on here. Check these O-rings for any weathering or any abrasions. If there is, go ahead and replace those as well. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to remove the needle from the gun. By doing this, we want to drop our needle down and completely remove the needle set nut. And using our 1/2" wrench, we're going to go ahead and take off the packing nut. And now our needle should push through the bottom of the gun. You want to check your needle for any bends. Make sure it rolls nice. If you've got a bent needle, replace it. Or if you've got corrosion that's causing the tip of your needle to fall apart, go ahead and replace it. Now we're going to separate the upper body from the lower body using our 7/16 wrench. And you should end up with a completely hollow upper body. Now we're going to remove the packings. The packings in this is a 3-piece system. First you have an O-ring. And then you have 2 Teflon pieces. The first one is called your wiper ring. The second one is called your retainer ring. And now you have a completely hollow lower body. Alright, once you have inspected all of your parts and replaced any damaged parts, we're going to start putting this back together with the lower body. We're going to take our needle and slide the threaded end through the bottom of the gun. Then we're going to replace our retainer ring. and then our wiper ring. The wiper ring goes in with the small end of the bevel towards the bottom of the gun. And then we're going to replace the O-ring. Now we loosely place the upper body onto the needle, slide our packing nut on, and we could thread on our needle set nut. And then we can go ahead and attach the upper body to the lower body. Then we just want to make sure that our bolt is snug. Nothing on this gun has to be extremely tight. Now we can start threading our packing nut in. We don't want to tighten it down yet because we still need to adjust the needle. Now we can start putting our piston back together. Starting with our piston rod, we're going to go ahead and replace both the O-rings. And with these O-rings, you want to go ahead and give them a little bit of lubricant. Some air tool oil, ATF or motor oil works perfect for this. We're going to insert our U-cup with the open end towards the small end of the piston. And then we're going to insert our piston rod through the big side of the piston. And once again, we're going to use a little bit of ATF, motor oil, or air tool oil. Now we can insert the piston assembly into the top of the gun. And start threading it onto the needle. Just 2 or 3 threads is fine because we need to adjust the needle. And to do that, we're going to take our needle seat and put it in the gun bottom end first. And then we're going to utilize our bead deflector. What we're looking for is just a little bit of play between the piston and the bead deflector. So we'll turn the piston until the needle starts to rise. Then we'll back it off a half of a turn. And that should give us the play that we're looking for. Now we can tighten our needle set nut. And we can tighten our packing nut. The packing nut, you just want to snug it up. And then back it off a quarter of a turn. Next, we're going to put our bead deflector together. Needle seat with the big end first. Our bead deflector. Our O-ring, and with all these O-rings, make sure that you're using air tool oil, motor oil, or ATF on these. Then we'll replace our retaining nut. Next, we're going to put together our cap assembly. You want to put the piston rod spring in first, in the small hole in the center of the cap. Then you want to put your piston spring in the outer diameter of the cap. Do not worry about adjusting the thumb screw at this point. Wait until it's on the truck. Please see the video on bead calibration. Now we're going to replace our air fitting. And then we're going to replace our air line just by pushing it in and pull it out a little bit to make sure that the lock caught. And that's how you rebuild a Binks Model 30 bead gun.